Welcome! I'm Kerri Lake, author of Spiritually Gifted, which I am so excited to read for you. This will be our first reading that will begin with the dedications and the preface to the book. I'm actually kind of excited to read this, so I'll slow myself down just a little bit because I also want to share with you, before I start, a little bit about how the book came about, where did I plan my whole life to write a memoir or that sort of thing, because it's actually a really beautiful story how this book was born, really. A story of profound kindness, really. So a couple of years ago, I met a woman just in town, and we started talking and had coffee, and I was sharing a few stories with her, and just sort of the surface stories, you know, because sometimes when I start sharing the stories really deeply, it's often more than people want to hear when they ask, "How you doing?" So she was one that wanted to hear. Once I started telling the stories, she just sort of stopped me and said, "Kerri, wait. I want to hear everything," which was a massive gift. Hard to believe at first, but she was absolutely sincere. She said, "Kerri, I want to go sit down and I want you to tell me everything that you want to tell me in the way that you know it from your awareness." The gift of listening is absolutely immeasurable. What she and I did was literally go sit down and turn on the recorder, and I shared from my earliest memories in this life stream. I shared with her the earliest memories, the experiences that I had that shaped the way I think, that colored what I'm afraid of, that affected how I feel about myself and others, that the things that were amazing, the things that were horrific for me. And hours and hours and hours she listened. And when we got through all of that, it was a different world for me. It gave me the chance to share my stories and hear my stories told in a way that they were not met with any judgment. She had no judgment for me. And that was probably the first time I really had shared what things really felt like for me and felt no judgment in return. It's such a gift. And that is what started the sharing of Spiritually Gifted. And actually, I was going to say I didn't even have the title yet, but I actually did. You know, I didn't have a plan like, okay, by the time I'm this old, I'm going to sit down and write my memoir. It was more like since age 11, I knew I would be sharing. And since age 11, I have been paying attention in a way that would one day hopefully let me share insights, awarenesses, and education for a way to relate to ourselves and each other that is very different than what's being taught out in the world. So, and the title of Spiritually Gifted came probably between 4 and 5 years ago, when I was watching a documentary on Paramahansa Yogananda. they were speaking about his early years and his awarenesses as a young person. And as I was watching that, obviously Yogananda's journey is different than my journey, vastly different backgrounds. But again, what is common, regardless of culture, color, belief, is when we know that we know, you feel a camaraderie with all of life. When your awareness is aware of itself, it's not often talked about that way, right? But when you're aware of your own awareness, there is a camaraderie innately that you feel and you just know with all of life. And in that documentary, that's what I heard them talking about when they spoke about Paramahansa's younger years in life and how people knew he was spiritually gifted. When I heard those two words, it was like, whoa, so I had to pay attention and just remember those words. And if I ever do write something like this, that's what it would be called. And here we are. So again, the purpose of sharing this with you is so that we all together can recognize our own giftedness. And in doing so, also recognize the things that we're taught that don't serve anymore. Truly, the ease of reclaiming your heart and stepping into your heart and living from your heart, the ease of that is to drop everything that isn't your heart, right? Or I should say the simplicity of that, because it's not always easy. Simple, not always easy. The courage to be vulnerable enough to yourself to see what no longer serves you, that courage is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Sharing these stories with my friend out loud, and then from that experience of sharing out loud, it gave me the insight on how to organize the stories, what stories to include, how to progress through creating this book to share with you. That courage to recognize not only what is my heart, but recognize what isn't my heart. That's the vulnerability that I'm talking about. That's the courage that I'm talking about. There's a lot of teaching that talks about being positive, 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 and that's wonderful, right? But to say something is positive is just as polarized as to say something is negative, because when what you truly want is a relationship with your heart, then you start to look at what is. And drop the positive and negative, because that just starts to create a whole lot of extra work. Sharing this with you is sharing that my version of that journey with you, hoping and knowing really that through what is common among us at the level of the heart, we can all start to recognize even further what is my heart and what is everything else. It's a feeling, it's an experience. And having the cognition, the understanding, the mental guidance, the way to help the mind walk through this so it doesn't just go boop right back into judgment. That's what all this is for. So it's my honor to share with you. Today, I'll just share this with you too, just because I think it's fun. At first I thought I would just put the book on the screen, and read off the screen, because you can change the size of things. But then I thought, no, I'm going to actually hold the book, and I'm going to actually read from the book for you. You're going to probably hear the pages turn too. How cool is that? I don't know. Maybe I think it's cool. So I'm going to share it with you. We'll start with the dedications. There's the page. For everyone who knew as a child that love is the way. For every adult who is rediscovering their knowing. For every individual who has refused conformity to cultural standards that disempower love. For every parent who has done their very best to be a good parent. For every heart that feels touched as humanity awakens to the innate heart connection of our species. For the love that holds the world together. The preface. Every person on the planet is waking up to a new way of being. For thousands of years, this awakening has been known, supported, and guided by ancient mystics, shamans, and swamis. Higher states of consciousness were limited to the very few whose purpose on the planet was to know the light of divinity and share that light through both their own beingness and the methods that guide others. The year 1987 saw an energetic event birth the possibility of a new paradigm of consciousness. This event is known as the harmonic convergence. Signifying both the death of the old and the birth of the new, these auspicious moments held the love and attention of thousands of people around the world. You can call it the New Age, the Age of Aquarius, or simply a new paradigm. Every label is talking about the heart of humanity stepping out of perpetual conflict and competition into something that has never happened before. The whole of humanity connected through the heart, living in harmony with life. The only way to live in this connection is for individuals to know their own heart first. As each is connected to the whole, each one affects the whole. We are at the very beginning stages of generating harmony through this connection. There are a lot of old, crusty belief systems, competitions, greed, and domination yet to play out as more individuals claim their heart connection and begin to live in this priority. But it has begun, and there is no going back. Some people's awakening will feel easier than others. Some will struggle mightily. Some will refuse to make the shift. Each one will have the same opportunities to shine as they claim and live with their heart wide open. Suffering is optional. My journey is an example of a person with a gifted awareness of this new paradigm who is caught in the stubbornness of trying to make new things happen in old ways. Sharing the bumps and bruises with you will hopefully shine a light in collectively dark places so you don't have to bounce off the same walls I did. There will be more and more people born who are already aware of the lightness of being, of our option to share this planet without the predatory competition we've come to see as a normal part of human nature. To be very clear, predatory domination is taught. The true nature of humanity rises continuously in love. Those who know this innately will still need guidance to navigate the physical world without getting caught up in the ego, in the arrogance that suggests humanity's role is to control divine nature. The parents of these gifted ones will provide the best guidance by knowing their own heart first and leading by example. Ultimately, everyone's journey is exactly as it must be to illuminate what works for the heart and what doesn't. As stubborn as I've been, I was handed situation after situation from a benevolent source, offering me perpetual opportunities to stop repeating what doesn't work. With great compassion, I finally had the courage to see myself without judgment and begin to walk in a new way. It is my honor to share the journey with you. If you would like to receive a reminder for when Chapter 1 is aired next Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time, then please use the link in the description and just enter your email and you'll get a reminder. And next week, I will share with you Chapter 1, which is called I'm Human Again.